is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
Good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. And our guests today are Katie Sprinkle and Leslie McMurray, the ever lovely. Oh, she just looked at me like, what did I do?
I always look at you that way.
Oh, okay. We're talking couple of trans murders, or possibly here in Dallas over the last 2 weeks. Yeah. One of them solved, one of them we don't even have the identity of the victim. We're going to talk about a couple of other things. I went to the Silver Pride prom last night, and a cute couple from Tyler who weren't allowed to go to their high school prom came to party with all the 60 and 70-year-olds. We're going to talk marriage because this lovely couple here who's been coming on our show for several years, they're getting married. So I think
congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we all have some marriage advice for you.
Yes.
Most of it useless.
She got me pregnant, so
you know, it happens. It happens.
Shotgun wedding in September, though.
Yeah.
A week ago, Thursday or Wednesday, a body was found in her apartment. A trans woman was murdered.
Carla Flores Pavone,
her name is Carla Flores Pavone. And then on Tuesday this week, a body was found in White Rock Creek that the police did identify. It took them several days, but they did identify the body as being that of a transgender woman. Mm-hmm. Police were, I wouldn't say panicking over this, but police were horrified, taking it seriously. The investigations into both. Now, the second one we don't know was a murder yet.
Right.
We don't know because the body was badly decomposed. And has not been identified yet, so we just don't know. But, I mean, it's something happened, not good.
Yeah.
Police are taking this so seriously that Thomas Castro, who's the deputy chief who's in charge of investigations, mm-hmm. was personally overseeing this. He doesn't personally oversee most investigations. This just by the slight possibility, not just that they could have been related, but that people are going to link them. They were in overdrive to solve this. Now, the first one was solved on, what day was it? Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, it was Thursday or Friday last week.
I got to the press conference, and it was called last minute. They picked up a guy in Walker County, which is Huntsville, who admitted that he killed Carla Pavone. The motive was robbery. They're not giving out a lot of details, but they did recover her property, so they know that he's the one who had it. He did admit the murder. They had met on a chat line. They would not even say which chat line, but that's how police traced him, because they went to Carla's computer. They found the person she was chatting with, and he said he was coming over, and they traced him. He was picked up by chance on a traffic stop, and they realized they had a warrant for him. So apparently this warrant had been out for a couple of days. Dallas police, before they had this press conference, Dallas police got down to Huntsville, they interviewed him, and they are convinced that this is the person who killed her.
And what I'm hearing, the scuttlebutt is, although he hasn't been charged, hasn't been brought to Dallas yet, but they're expecting to charge him with capital murder because of the robbery.
Right.
Good.
They charged him with murder, and Castro said that there's a chance that it will be upgraded to capital murder.
So he'll get to go back down to Huntsville. How ironic.
Very possibly.
Yeah.
Last place he saw freedom.
Yeah, well.
That's where he goes.
Yeah. Now, this, while it is transgender violence or violence against a transgender person, the deputy police chief assured us that there was no indication that he even knew that she was transgender. So, but we don't know. We don't know everything that went on in their conversations. But there's no indication that this was directed at a transgender person. It seemed more like it was directed at a person who he could attack.
Yeah.
So, very sad. The unidentified body that they found, they released a sketch of what they think the face looks like. This person was badly decomposed. But Katie, you explained how you think they're going to be able to identify the body. I hadn't even thought about this.
Well, first of all, I asked, how do they even know if it's that badly decomposed? How do they even know it's a trans individual?
Well, they apparently, discovered that this individual had breast implants. And one way that they can identify someone who has had breast implants is remove the implants. They have a serial number. And then they can use that serial number to go back to the manufacturer and trace it through the doctor. Now, the trick here is it's got to be a doctor that keeps records. So if she went overseas, went down to Mexico, how good the record keeping is.
A doctor who's not in business anymore?
Correct.
You don't know.
So you don't know there, but that is one avenue that you can use. There are things that they can do with the hands to sort of regenerate the hands enough to get a fingerprint.
And that's where a very decomposed body...
That goes first. It's the thinnest, some of the thinnest skin. So they can try to do that, but if perhaps she's in a database, they can do DNA and see if they can get something from the DNA database. But their best case scenario is the breast implants, because they have serial numbers that can be traced and they have identified people in the past. But it's not something that happens overnight, obviously. And it does depend, unfortunately, on where she went to have her implants done. Because a lot of trans people go overseas, they go to Mexico.
Yeah, it's pretty common.
And you just have to hope that the clinic...
Well, even if it's overseas, it could be a clinic that keeps those records.
Yeah,
could be.
You just hope that it is, but that could be the delay in identifying her. And
well, part of the delay, I think, is nobody has reported a missing person that fits this description.
Yeah.
Which I find so sad.
Yeah,
I mean, don't you?
It really is.
Well,
it's
and
just
that's another aspect of the trans community is that there are a lot of people who are forced underground, and because of that, they live and usually interact with people that are also underground, and it makes it hard for them to come forward because they don't want to be involved with the police. They may have their own issues that they have to deal with, but in addition to that, they just don't trust the police.
Sure. What came to my mind, okay, so what do you normally do during the day? Somebody has to miss you. Well, you get up, even if you live alone, you then go to work. Well, what's the unemployment rate in the trans community?
For those in the African American community, close to 30%.
And this was a black trans woman, so yeah. So it's real possible she has a 3 out of 10 chance of not being employed.
Yes,
and a much higher chance of being underemployed.
But it's really sad that in a metropolitan area as big as this, that nobody, whether she's working or not, nobody has some type of regular contact with her that has reported her missing.
Yeah, but and again, some of that may be mistrust.
So it could have been she just got off a bus.
It could be it also.
It could also be, if it was a murder, the body could have been dumped, and we don't know from where. I mean, White Rock Creek seems like an odd place to dump a body. You would...
They find quite a few in that area.
In the lake, more likely, I would
more likely,
think.
But yeah, for my court days, yeah, she's right. You'd be surprised how many are found over there.
Yeah, it's now the creek area is not as accessible. So
so nobody's going to see you because there's kind of a canyon there.
That's the point.
Huh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if you're dumping a body, yeah, probably.
yeah.
I'm thinking.
So,
Not that I've, done that a lot, but
But the few times you've done it.
yeah, the few times I've done it, you want to look for a secluded place. You know?
yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be right
So-
out there in the open.
But this would not
People
have
ask,
happened
start asking
if
questions.
the vehicle that was used to transport her had fewer doors. Because if there was only one door, it's much more difficult to dump a body. At least that's what Dan Patrick says. So,
Yeah, doors are the problem.
yeah.
Yeah.
What? I missed this.
You didn't
gem
hear
from-
this?
Oh my
I
God!
missed
About
it.
After the
School
Santa Fe shooting, he said, no, the problem here isn't guns. The problem is that these schools have too many doors. If they only
Yeah.
had
You missed
one
that.
way in,
And one way
this
out.
would not have happened.
So basically, we're getting closer to banning doors than we are guns.
Doors are the problem.
Yeah.
Even though many of these kids in Santa Fe, Texas, who were in the school during the shooting and fleeing, they said with all of the exits open, they were getting trampled. They were trampling each other in their quest to get out of that school. And Dan Patrick wants to, if we just had fewer doors, then
I wonder what the fire chief would say about a large number of people and only one way out of a building.
right.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because it's a big school.
Yeah, it's a huge.
Several thousand kids.
Wouldn't make fire drills interesting.
And frequent guest on our show, Steve Rudner, I loved his comment about it, where he said, that we could apply this to the opioid crisis. If we could cut down on the opioid problem in this country, because if we just had fewer mouths,
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. No, I'm
that's
surprised you
for you.
missed that.
I missed it. It's there's so much garbage going on that sometimes you just miss certain
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I was busy.
He was duly mocked on CNN and many, many places.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah. So no, we're still getting back to the
Getting
young
back to
woman.
the body.
That is a common area for bodies to be dumped. And the problem that the police are going to have, aside from the one they already have, which is identifying her and determining a cause of death, is the location she's found is what's called a secondary crime scene. There's a primary crime scene that they have no idea where it's at, and even if they found it, how much evidence is still going to be there?
It's uncontaminated.
And right now they don't even know that it's a homicide because the body was badly decomposed enough that there were apparently wounds. And that was kind of one of those things that a police officer said to me on the side, don't print this particularly because I can't confirm it for you, but there were some kind of markings that could have been, she's in a creek with lots of trees, could have been the body being punctured by branches, but it could have also been a bullet wounds.
Yeah, it's sad when you think that we don't know that it was a homicide. We just know that it's exceedingly rare for transgender people to die of natural causes.
And I'm not even saying natural causes. Could have been suicide, could have been
Accident,
could have been an accident. It was not natural.
Cat bite.
Yeah, Katie is suffering from a cat bite from a new cat. She's completely scratched up. And how are you feeling?
The cat did not win.
Well, it's cat one, Katie nothing.
No,
Unfortunately, the cat's going around in the hood saying, "You should see that lady." So,
total street cred.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, part of the point of this is if anybody is out there listening, and how old was the person who's unidentified? Did they say?
No,
They didn't even
not.
have an estimate for age, but black transgender woman. If you know one,
5'3", about 130 pounds.
okay. If you know somebody that fits that description, you don't want to call the police. Call us. We'll get the information.
And there's
over to
composite
the.
sketches that have been released. You can find them online.
They're on Dallas Voice. The Morning News had it. All the TV stations had it.
So study the,
Yeah.
it's those composite sketches. The problem with them is that they're rarely completely accurate. But I looked at the sketch and a person came to mind, and I immediately checked the status of that person, just because I was like, I think she moved out of the area, but I wanted to make sure because there was a slight resemblance, and I checked and it wasn't the person I knew. So if this person even reminds you of someone, because that's what these composite sketches are designed to do. They're designed to jog your memory, to make you think of someone. And like I said, in my case, fortunately, was the person I knew that it reminded me of was fine. But that's what you need to do. You need to study these sketches, see if they remind you of anybody, and then take the extra step and reach out to that person to make sure they are okay. Because this is how these cases break. Somebody thinks, oh, well, that looks like so-and-so, but then they never follow up, only to find out later that, in fact, it was. So even if this person just remotely looks familiar, if it's somebody you can reach out to, please reach out to them. And again, like David said, call David, call any of us. My number is readily available as well. Call
Katie
me.
is an attorney, and you can find her online, Katie Sprinkle.
Yeah, she can't talk about it. This is doing a whole attorney thing, you know.
And so I will get your information to
pass
the
it along.
police. And you know, if you have
The
information,
other thing that you can do is call Crime Stoppers.
yeah.
That's completely anonymous, and
And,
I
and
think
if,
they offered a reward too. I think there's like a $5,000 reward.
that was for Carla.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
and if there's some information, if you're worried about the police, you're going to be dealing with Dallas Police. And of all the police agencies in the area, that's the one, if you have to deal with them, you want to deal with them.
Let me tell you, this one, the police are on your side. They are desperate to get this one solved.
Yeah.
I've never seen such
Focus, diligence. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sense of mission.
In order to get these solved.
Well, they were talking at the LGBT task force meeting that their hit rate is like 70-80% of their solve rate for homicides. And they're very proud of that because it's well above the state average.
Yeah.
And the Dallas District Attorney's Office still maintains their LGBT task force. So, the law enforcement apparatus, particularly in Dallas, is very aware of their prior history of not being good to our community, and they're at least taking steps to address those issues and those concerns. The DA's office has done it, DPD has done it, some other local agencies have done it. So if you're concerned about whether or not they're going to treat you fairly, again, you're dealing with the Dallas Police Department. They're going to, and any one of us can be available to assist and facilitate getting that information to the police. But there's a victim out there that needs justice. She needs dignity, and the only way we're going to get it for is if we keep looking out for each other. If you know or think you know who she is, call somebody.
Call somebody, and because I've really never seen the police on a case that didn't involve other police officers so focused, and this is coming from the top. We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink. Katie Sprinkle and Leslie McMurray are our guests, and we'll be talking more with them right after this.
This is Rollins Golan, and I'm listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3, and darn glad to be doing.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet, and I'm here with Lerone and the late Patti. And our guests are Katie Sprinkle and Leslie McMurray, our resident transgender activists who are getting married to each other.
We are. That's the real royal wedding.
That
really.
is.
I mean, a couple of real princesses getting married.
That's right.
One of us is a queen.
Before we get to that, I just want to finish up on our discussion about these two, a trans murder and a trans death that might have been a murder also. The trans murder, which happened about a week and a half ago now, not even, about 10 days ago, has been solved. They have somebody in custody, and that is because of some really incredible police work. Dallas police were desperate to solve this one. They did not want this one hanging. 26-year-old transgender woman who was choked to death in her own home. Anyway, the other one is an unidentified trans woman who is black, weighs about 130, And what was the other thing?
5'3".
5'3". So she's short, taller than Patti, but short. And here's what bothers me again, though. Nobody has missed her. There is no missing person anywhere in the area that fits this description. I find that so upsetting that nobody misses somebody. You know when that happened? Also, a person that I worked with is in prison. No, he's not in prison. He's in the county jail for over 2 years waiting for trial on this one. He killed his roommate. Allegedly. And then sold the house using impersonating him using fake documents. And the person who died, it was months before anybody realized he was missing. Again, I just find that so sad.
Yeah.
That nobody missed him. So.
And I think Leslie pointed this out before we went on air, that we don't even know if this person is from this area. They may not be. They may have literally come in on a bus. The people that she left behind
think she's traveling.
Think she's gone to another town and will call when she gets set up. Or, we also don't know the circumstances. She may have left. She may have left because of an unsupportive family.
She may have left in the trunk of somebody's car in another state.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And they waited until they got here to dump her.
And it could have been all of those things, except there was an accident of some sort, because we don't know that this was homicide yet. We just have no information on that. I just find it incredibly sad, though.
It is. It's heartbreaking. And again, it's a sad reality that there are so many people who can become so isolated, ostracized from society. And it starts in schools with the bullying and the taunting and the teasing that occurs for all members of the LGBT community. And you really begin to withdraw because how unsupportive the community is. And then when politicians like Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick go on their little false crusades, and that's what their goal is, to drive people back into the closet. And when you do that, people start falling off people's radars, and people have to leave home or whatever, and that causes some of this. And it's we need to point the blame where it belongs. A large portion of it belongs to the elected leaders of this state and this country who want to vilify people for their own personal gain, which is getting reelected to whatever phony baloney job they have.
We don't know whether she was murdered, but we know that trans people are murdered at an astounding rate. There was one that was killed in Atlanta, so if this one found in White Rock Creek was murdered, that would make 11 for the year. There was like 28, I think, last year. And in looking at the...
So are we on pace?
No, it's lower.
Yeah, it's a little lower
that's good.
at this point. But looking at the environment since the president has taken office, he has removed our ability to serve in the military and serve our country. They, in the last legislative session and the one before that, are trying to make it illegal or very difficult for us to use public facilities and bathrooms and things of that nature. HUD has removed from their website guidelines for treating LGBT people, specifically transgender people, in a homeless shelter situation because we might make someone uncomfortable. And I don't know anybody who's really comfortable in a homeless shelter situation. We have no job protection federally. We have no housing protection federally. Or
statewide.
Education has said that they will not even accept complaints of discrimination from transgender kids. They won't even process those. Same with job discrimination complaints, even though the previous administration said that Title IX applied to us. And then just prior to these murders or murder taking place was guidance from the federal government on how to treat transgender prisoners. And a lot of that is going to end up with transgender women being housed with men. So you look at, we aren't protected in housing or jobs. Homeless shelters are now kind of not being very friendly to us. Doctors can refuse us medical care. For someone who is transgender and is underprivileged and undervalued, looking at that steep pile of discrimination that's institutional hatred, how is there a way out of that? And part of that equation is the Transgender Law Center estimates, this would come from the AMA, but the life expectancy for a woman in America is 82 years old. For an African American woman, it's 78. For an African American transgender woman, it's 35.
Wow.
Yeah, and if that doesn't sink in and have that exact reaction, there's something wrong. 35 years old, because the suicide rate is astoundingly high. If there's no job or housing protection, you can't be treated in a homeless shelter, and you can't get medical care. And then on top of that, murder and being forced into things like street work just to be able to eat and high-risk behaviors. So if one of those things doesn't kill you, something else is gonna. So there's something wrong here in America. There is, and I don't mean to be saying poor us, but there is a systematic effort afoot to erase us from polite society, and it's largely being successful at this point. And now is the time, if ever before, to band together and fight this and stop it right now. It's costing lives.
Aside from, the legal protections, there's socially, it's okay to write off trans individuals or do something bad to trans individuals.
Yeah, that's this permissive nature. If the government doesn't care about us or ostracizes us, then people are going to say, well, if I hurt or kill somebody, they're not going to be missed, and it's not going to be investigated, and they won't care because these people aren't valued.
And nothing's going to be done to the perpetrator.
Well, and I think that was part of why the police took this so seriously when there was one, and then when there was a second, they were... we can't have that attitude here in Dallas where people think we're not going to investigate. It's going to be investigated by the highest levels of the Dallas Police Department and a team of detectives who are some of our best.
Yeah.
Have you all seen the video this week of this Republican politician running for office in Florida? I'm sorry, California.
Yeah.
She follows a trans individual into the restroom, films it,
Which is against the law.
Which is against the law, and harasses them. This woman is in the restroom, in the stall, doing her business. Like we always say, that's what you go to the bathroom for. It's all trans.
So we
people want to do is go to the bathroom and do their business.
It's not what Patti goes to the bathroom for, but that's a different story.
And this woman follows her right there is harassing her. And
when she comes out,
when she comes out, she's waiting on her and harasses her some more. Nothing's done to this woman.
Yeah.
To harass her.
The two things that I'll comment on first, what was it, 4 years ago, a trans woman was murdered in her apartment in Denton and never been solved.
Suspects?
No suspects.
Person of interest?
In fact, the Denton County Sheriff's Office, under the Grand Marshal,
Tracy Murphy.
They would never even comment. People who loved this woman, and she had a number of friends who were trying to put pressure on the Denton County Sheriff's Office, they did nothing. So the fact that the Dallas Police Department...
Well, we also had a murder here about 3 summers ago, Miss Shade.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And
Shade Schuler, and then there was Guinevere River Song down in Waxahachie.
But that's not Dallas itself. The thing is, the police couldn't solve that one. There were no clues. There was nobody who came forward with any information whatsoever.
Yeah.
They tried. They didn't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
How does that look?
Yeah, well, and that just contrasts where Dallas is today. I will tell you that several months ago, I was appointed to represent a transgender woman who was arrested in Dallas. It was a drug possession charge. And I've got the body cam video from Dallas Police. So they identify this woman, discover that she's got some drug paraphernalia on her. So they placed her under arrest for the drug paraphernalia, and the officer asked her, because he gets her ID, and it hasn't been updated, so it still has the old information on it. Instead of just looking at that and then commencing a search of her, he asks her first, how do you identify? And she says female. He says, okay, no problem. He said, I'm going to have you have a seat here. I'm going to get a female officer to come and do the search. And she said, well, you know, I've got some stuff in my pocket. I mean, I'm not going to josh you about that. That's just what it is. He goes, it's all right. I'll just get a female officer to come out here. So a few minutes later, a female officer arrives at the scene. The female officer approaches. Male officer says, I've got a transgender woman. She says she's got some narcotics in her pocket, so we need to get her patted down. And the female officer doesn't even blink. Says, okay, no, not a problem. And she walks over, opens the door, come on out, sweetie. I'm going to pat you down. Conducts the pat down. There were no problems. But
I'm thrilled to hear this because our trainings are.
I was going to say the training's paying off.
Yeah.
The trainings tell them exactly. We tell them exactly to do that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. And I've got the body cam video to show it. And
I'm thrilled to hear that. I'm totally thrilled to hear this.
And then let's take it a step further. The court appointed me because they knew it was a transgender woman. So they appointed me to represent her. And when the probation department came in to do their interview, they properly identified her as a transgender woman, and in their report to the judge said, and we are going to use the correct pronouns for purposes of this report. And they refer to her as she, ma'am, throughout the report. And of course, Judge White in the 194th, he was also thrilled that both the probation department and the Dallas Police Department had exercised some very good judgment in
progress.
treating.
Yeah.
So
Major progress.
that's
Training pays off.
yeah, that's not something that's going to happen in every community, but if we started here, but I mean, hats off to DPD, hats off to the police officers who are taking this training and taking it seriously and putting it into play, because they're doing a very good job. And
Well, that fits in line with a de-escalation policy, is that by treating people with dignity and respect in the way that they want to be treated, you can de-escalate a situation rather than getting somebody all upset and riled up. I mean, what's the point?
And this is how we're going to solve some of these crimes that happen. When people realize that,
I can trust them.
you know, that the Dallas Police Department is making tremendous strides at trying to reverse the years of bad behavior.
And you know, it's more than just the Dallas Police Department. I spoke this week to the new LGBT liaison, police liaison in Irving.
In Irving, yeah.
And he said he called several other cities to see which other suburban cities had liaisons. So he called Plano to see if they did. And the person who answered at the police department said, no, but that's a great idea. So I have a feeling a number of cities around us are just ripe for a little bit of change. And when I say a little bit, it's just a little bit that you're asking them to do. Respect the person you're dealing with.
That little bit can go a long way.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not hard.
You know, one of the things I got asked, because I did a lot of media with these incidents that have occurred, and one of the questions I got asked quite a bit is, are you upset that they didn't apply hate crime statute to the murder of Ms. Pavon? And my comment is, for one, I'm not angry at all that they didn't apply it, because it can't be. In the state of Texas, gender identity is not one of the attributes that's subject to hate crime statutes. If sexual orientation is, your race, national origin is, your religion is, your disability is, but gender identity is not.
But
So
it is federally.
Federally, it's occasionally applied under the Matthew Shepard, James Byrd Hate Crime Act, but not here in Texas. And so that's what upsets me, is that we're not included in that.
But in this particular case,
there's no point in it, because you can't enhance a capital murder.
well, not just is there's no point in it,
But it wasn't.
but there's no evidence
There's
that
no
this was a
evidence.
hate crime.
Right.
The evidence is it was strictly a robbery.
And too often, I think people get gung-ho and say, well, if someone was killed, it's because they were hated. Well, sometimes that happens, but a lot of times it doesn't. It's incidental to something else. It could be a domestic dispute, and they were fighting and things got out of control, and it wasn't because they hated them because of a particular attribute. So there are, if it is to be determined it's a hate crime for whatever reason, it has to measure up to that. So there is no indication, as you mentioned, in this case that a hate crime took place, but even then, even if it did, it couldn't be applied to a transgender person because in Texas it just were not considered hate-worthy.
Well, in the same meeting, though, Detective Laura Martin from the Dallas Police Department pointed out that they continue to score developments in these cases and work with the FBI as it may develop into a hate crime. So it's hard to say that we don't in Dallas.
Yeah, but Texas doesn't. In their hate crime statute under the DPS website, gender identity not included.
Right, and the Texas hate crime law is a penalty enhancement law.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be that penalty enhancement, but like you said, if this is elevated to capital murder because it was a murder while committing a robbery.
And again, having it there just once again tells the community we value you, you're important, and if they hurt you, we're going to hurt them.
It says what our values are.
Yeah,
Well,
it sends the opposite message. And the other, I'm sorry.
No.
I was going to say the other thing that I got asked a lot, and that's what just wore me down by Friday. I mean, I got home and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay." Because I got asked, I don't know how many times, because I talked to Associated Press, ABC News, Fox 4, Channel 11, Dallas Morning News, I mean, and more than I can even mention. But I got asked a lot, why do people want to kill you? And
well, those of us who know you.
Well, I mean, not necessarily me personally. If it was me personally, I would understand. I kid. It's hard to say or try and explain why people would want to kill people like us. Because I can't point to anything, and I'm trying to be objective here, in that what have transgender people done to deserve this type of treatment? Certainly these horrible murders that take place. And
why don't they ask the people who are perpetrating these crimes?
Yeah, that would be a good question too. You know,
we need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis and the late Patti Fink, and our guests are Katie Sprinkle and Leslie McMurray. We'll be back with more to talk about their wedding and another wedding right after this.
Hi, this is Valletta Lil, and I listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. Our guests are Katie Sprinkle and Leslie McMurray. They are getting married to each other September 15th on my birthday, so their wedding cake is going to have 39 candles on it.
Yeah, a little segment. This is, happy birthday, David. Mazel tov.
Put a little Star David on there.
So that would be the real royal wedding of the year.
Absolutely.
Well, for anybody who doesn't know, yesterday Meghan Markle, who's the star of Suits, she married this unemployed British guy. And, a welfare recipient mostly, I guess he is.
Family
business, whatever. Excuses for not doing much.
It traps them in that cycle. I mean, they cannot escape it. And, they're given these horrible, they call them names, it's like duchess and dukes. I mean,
Duke of Earl.
Can we get away from the name calling, please?
Also, too, that's quite a mouthful, the Duchess of Sussex.
It is. Well, she's the first Duchess of Sussex since the 1700s.
There's a reason for that.
Duchess, names like that. Why would you name your wife after a dog?
Yeah. It's
just makes no sense.
So Patty had been saying that she was going to watch it. I thought she was joking.
No, we knew that she wasn't. If you follow Patty on Facebook,
I do, and I still thought she was joking.
Oh no! She was dead serious about this.
So how was it, Patty?
Her wife was having none of it, though.
Oh, it was awesome. Yes, I'm married to Killjoy Moore, who's in the Killjoy Taffet here.
She could have come to my house and watched Star Wars with me.
I watched the Andy Griffith show. It was the only thing I could find other than that damn wedding.
You know what they have now?
That wedding was fantastic.
It was fantastic. It was a tremendous wedding. They do a terrific job there in England at spending taxpayer money. There's so much gold. It's such a luxurious place.
And I guess he wasn't invited.
No.
He was not invited, but the Obamas were. Did they go?
They did not attend.
They did not go. Okay.
But this was an incredibly historic event.
Because?
And I credit Diana, Princess Diana, for modernizing the royal family. It's historic because it's the first time an American has been made HRH, Her Royal Highness. To be, if you have HRH in front of your name, it's completely different.
Oh, I thought it was a type of hemorrhoids.
Oh, wow. But I mean, it's completely different. And then this is the first time ever that a royal has married a biracial person, and that's an amazing step forward in I think the royal family's approach to the monarchy, and I think the Queen's done a great job since coming to terms with it when Diana died. That she had to give a royal funeral to her.
But I think Harry's going to have some trouble because I think his trust is set up so that, he's got to marry a white Christian. Oh, no, that was somebody else.
That was Vic Cunningham here in Dallas County.
Oh, sorry.
But the Queen was very nice to forgive the crown marks in the headboard.
But it was a pretty amazing wedding. I thought that the women are expected to wear date dresses and hats, and I had my fascinator. I was wearing it at 4:30 in the morning with my coffee.
Of course you were.
And you were supposed to wear it to the studio.
Oh, and I left it at home.
You know what? 600 people were invited. You know how many came to mine? 900. I wasn't really impressed with this one.
Did you have millions of people lining the road?
We did.
We were at your wedding.
Yes, you were.
We were at your wedding as well.
Yes, all of you were. Yeah, when I heard the number of people who were going, I thought, we have more friends than they do. We have more relatives. Now, none of her relatives were invited other than the mother. But, okay.
Well, they didn't come. Her mom was just radiant.
How much pressure is there, too, as like a wedding guest at a royal wedding? What do you bring them? I mean, it's not like you can just go with, a crock pot or something like that. I mean, there's got to be a lot of pressure. What do they not have? Yeah.
Well, you never know.
And I don't understand why is there such controversy about her dad? He had a heart attack 2-3 weeks ago.
Because of the way it was announced. Of the way it was announced.
It was, and there had been a period of time where the half-sister was, who was a media seeker, jumped out in front of every camera, and she arranged with the father to stage photographs of him kind of working out and trying to look fit, because everybody was saying he was, not that attractive looking, and so she wanted to better his image, and so she had these photographs staged, and they got published, and then it was discovered that they were staged.
Do you realize
everybody just went no?
Do you realize he's won an Emmy Award?
Yeah.
Did he really?
He was a lighting director for Married with Children.
Oh my!
Wow.
I thought it was for acting healthy.
No, no. But
that's practically how she got into show business, was through him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so the two of you are getting married.
Yes.
Patti, Lerone, do you have some marriage advice?
Oh wow.
I think you have to have a we, but you still have to have an I, and so you need to leave some space for each of you to be yourselves and be who you are, and have some alone time when you need it. But then build your life as a we. But it's a long haul.
See, last year, Leslie, for Christmas, got me what she likes to call the Leslie canceling headphones. Those are those.
I love that.
So I put them on, turn on some music, can't hear a word.
Yeah.
I have those too.
Can't.
I didn't know they had a name.
Yeah, they do.
I have to cancel out a kid and a husband. So yes,
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
They work very well.
You've been married the longest.
I have. You know what? In the next month it'll be 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
But not married 21
Not married.
years.
Been married. It would be married 11.
But your relationship can now drink and party, and do lots of things.
You're right. Yeah. Yep. Oh wow. I guess.
Keep the Leslie canceling headphones
I have
charged.
to think about that. Yeah, keep those charged.
Now, my relationship, which from the time we were married till the time Brian died, was 9 months, but Brian was the Ethel to my Lucy, and it just worked. And the two of you just work. When I see you together, I don't see two separate people. I do see two separate people, but I also see a couple. And you need to keep that.
I don't think there's any danger there.
Yeah. So,
Well, at least not from Leslie, just from a couple of cats. But
Leslie, are your kids coming?
Yes, oh yeah.
I'm looking forward to meeting them.
And they absolutely adore Katie. Big surprise, but yeah, they do. They love her to pieces.
Good.
Can we switch to the Lambda Weekly Animal Planet show for just a second?
Sure.
Talk about this bite. I've never seen anything like it, and I am a cat lover. I've had cats all my life. I have a cat now, and I've never seen anything quite like this.
I've had cats my entire life. I grew up in a house where we always had at least one cat. We fed strays and done all that, and I played rough with cats.
That's how Leslie came into your life.
Yeah, she
Feeding
was a stray
strays.
cat.
Very
I
much.
fed her once, and she kept coming back.
Except I'm not venomous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
So what happened? This is a good PSA.
so basically, cats have a bacteria in their mouth that if they kind of give you one of those little love bites and it doesn't go real deep, it doesn't really cause any problems apparently. But their fangs are designed to leave deep puncture wounds, and if they get a good bite on you and they puncture deep into the skin, that saliva can get in there. What the doctor told me is he doesn't care what you do to clean it. If it's that deep, it's not coming out, and it will almost always get infected, and you will develop cellulitis, which is an infection of the deep tissues in the skin. One of my bites, he bit me twice. The first two just kind of scraped the skin, so they look like just cat scratches. But one of the other two, because he bit me, he's got two fangs, the first two, and then one of the fangs in the second bite penetrated. It actually, they think it may have nicked a tendon, is how deep it went. My hand, about 2 hours after the bite, began to swell. If I had been smart, I would have gone to the doctor then. Instead, I went the next morning, which was less than 24 hours, but more than 12 hours. The physician assistant walked in, looked at my hand, and said, "Please tell me that's not a cat bite." And I said, "No, that's a cat bite." And he goes, "Oh, crap." Walked out of the room. Him and the doctor come back, and they're looking at my hand, telling me how horrible this is. They then proceed to tell me that there have been people who have lost
A limb?
because of it, and there are people who have died from it. So it can be...
Well, that's encouraging from your physician, who's yet to do anything to your
Well, he said we're going to be very aggressive. I then spent the next 2.5 hours getting an antibiotic IV treatment. They used 2 different antibiotics, and now I'm on 2 oral antibiotics.
Oh my God.
Which I've got to be on for a week.
The way you're holding your hand, can you even move your fingers?
I can move my fingers, but I cannot straighten it out, and I cannot make a fist.
Which is tragic because she can't flip me off like she normally does.
I just have to use the other hand.
She tried to earlier. I saw that. She tried to.
I can get close.
Yeah.
We get the message.
Yeah. I think we got
So
the
if I can't make a fist by Tuesday, I have to go back, and they may want to do a second IV treatment just to make sure that I've got plenty of
Just
antibiotics.
don't think of a cat bite.
That's the thing. People who don't have cats think that all cats, all they do as far as defending themselves is scratch. Well, no, that's not true. They bite too.
Yeah.
And they can bite pretty bad. I've just never seen anything quite like this. And I didn't know. Now, is it just some cats or all cats that have this bacteria?
All cats have it. It's like the bacteria we have in our mouths, and it's just part of a cat's bite. The difference is that, unlike a dog, whose canine is designed to rip and tear, a cat's is apparently designed to puncture.
Kind of like a Komodo dragon.
Yeah,
They're kind of like that.
And when they puncture that deep, and they get beyond the upper layer of skin, get down into the fat tissue and below, that saliva can get down in there, and if it does, it will almost always result in this infection. And I had never heard of it until Thursday night when Leslie said, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure that cat bites can be extraordinarily serious. And I looked it up and I went, oops.
For once, she's right.
See, when I was bitten by a dog, we went immediately to the emergency room, and one of the things they did was the IV antibiotics, but also an amazing lavage. They cleaned it out because I had deep cuts with those canine teeth. I had, I'm fortunate to have my hand today. But one of the things I learned was that you never ever suture or close an animal bite. Ever, because it will get that festering.
And this is
even a shark bite, because that can just rip
shark
you apart.
bite may be different, maybe.
And this is a puncture wound. I mean, if you see the, in fact, when I doctored them after it happened, I put Band-Aids on the other, because there's 4 marks on my hand. I put bandages on the other 3. Because they seemed to be the deepest, because they were the longest, because they were scrapes along the top layer of skin. This one just seemed like a little prick compared to what the other ones looked like, and it also didn't seem that deep, but as it turns out, that was the deepest one. And so, of course, it's a small area, so it bled pretty good, and of course, when you have a cut, it's actually helpful if you let it bleed slightly to push that stuff out. But when it's this deep, there's not a whole lot you can do, except immediately. Don't wait an hour. I mean, if your cat bites you and it leaves anything closely resembling a deep puncture wound, get yourself to the doctor. If they say just wipe it off and go about your business, find another doctor. Luckily, the doctors I went to an urgent care in Coppell. They knew exactly how serious it was, and even the nursing staff came in and they asked what happened. I said cat bite, and they're like, "Oh, cellulitis, gotcha."
I think you need a whole new story, though. If you could make up the name of a really awful sounding snake and say that you've got venom, this is a.
Oh, we've nicknamed the cat Cobra.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, Rattle Kitty.
We're just about out of time. Last night I went to the Silver Pride prom, and 3 kids from Tyler came with one of their moms and grandmothers. They were not allowed to go to their prom. They were given.
I don't know how this is still legal.
Well, they were given all kinds of excuses, like they didn't want gang violence at the prom.
Maybe if they came with white, straight Christian people to the prom.
Yeah. So these kids and their mom and their grandma were so cute, and they had a great time, and everybody who was there made sure that these kids had a prom, and it was great. It was just wonderful. So, that kind of thing does happen. Doesn't happen in Dallas, but it does happen.
Thank you, Portia. That was a great thing you did.
Yeah.
I want to reach out to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and again, you're talking about Tyler.
But you know what? The way the story got out was it incensed one of the reporters there. So,
things happen.
Things are changing.
Ways.
Corral is going to go sing in Tyler again
Nice.
In late June. So, so for all of us here at Lambda Weekly, our guest next week is Monica Roberts, and we'll be back with more Lambda Weekly next week. See you.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.